It was supposed to be a quick stop. 12-year-old Janiyah Preston had just wrapped up her after-school math tutoring across the street and walked to the local corner store in Ridgemont, California. Her dad told her to wait outside while he grabbed a few essentials, some AA batteries and a replacement phone charger. Nothing unusual. Just another quiet afternoon. Janiyah leaned against the wall beside the vending machines, her backpack resting neatly at her feet, and watched the light traffic hum past. The sun was still warm on her skin, and she shifted her weight from one foot to the other absent-mindedly. That's when she noticed the squad car. It rolled into the lot slowly, engine still humming as the door creaked open. A stocky officer with a receding hairline stepped out, holding a large thermos in one hand and a radio crackling with static on his chest. First, she didn't think much of it. He wasn't rushing, wasn't even looking at her. Then he did. "Hey," the officer called out, voice sharp. "You. What are you doing out here?" Janiyah blinked, confused. She looked left and right before turning fully toward him. "I said, what are you doing?" he repeated, this time walking toward her, his steps deliberate and loud. "I'm waiting for my dad," she said, unsure of what else to say. "He's inside." The officer frowned. "Uh-huh. Got any ID?" "I'm 12. He gave a dry chuckle. Shaking his head like that somehow made her more suspicious. "Right. So you're just hanging around, huh? Standing in front of a store by yourself with a backpack. You know how that looks?" Janiyah gripped the straps of her backpack tighter. "I didn't go inside. I'm just waiting." "That's not what I asked," he snapped. "You look like you're casing the place." "I don't even know what that means," she murmured, barely above a whisper. He squinted, as if trying to figure out if she was playing dumb. "You got a phone?" She nodded slowly. "Good. Call your parent. Right now." Her hands trembled slightly as she pulled the phone from her bag. The officer folded his arms and stared her down like she was a threat. Her fingers fumbled as she dialed. It took 3 rings before her dad picked up. "Dad," she said, voice small. "Can you come outside, please? There's an officer. He said I look like I'm casing the store." There was a pause. Then, calmly, her father replied, "I'm coming." She hung up and looked back at the officer. "He's coming." The man gave her a skeptical look. "Uh-huh. What's he do?" She hesitated. "He's in Special Forces." That changed everything. The officer's face twisted into a smirk. "Special Forces, huh? Maybe you're waiting for Captain America. Let me guess, drives a tank, parachutes into the driveway, right?" Janiyah didn't respond. She kept her eyes down, lips pressed tight. He wasn't done. "Kid, I've been on the force 22 years. You know how many times I've heard a kid say their daddy's in the FBI or CIA? Too many. You're not fooling me." Her heart beat faster, but her face didn't change. Her dad always told her, when someone doesn't respect you, don't argue. Just stay calm. A woman exited the store with a bag of chips and a soda. She paused when she saw the scene, eyebrows furrowed, but she kept walking. Janiyah glanced back at the glass doors. Maybe her dad hadn't heard the fear in her voice. Maybe the line was long. The officer cleared his throat and looked her over again. "You know loitering's still illegal, right? Doesn't matter if you're waiting or not. You got no business being out here. But I'm not doing anything wrong." He raised his voice slightly. "That's what everyone says. Right before they get cuffed." Janiyah took a small step back. Her stomach twisted, not from hunger, but from fear. Then a familiar clicking sound broke the tension, the sound of a car door opening. Her head turned automatically. A dark gray SUV had rolled in quietly and parked near the edge of the lot. Its windows were tinted, but she recognized the license plate frame. It was her dad's. She breathed out. Just a little. The officer was still monologuing, still standing like a teacher about to issue detention. But Janiyah said nothing. She waited. Her father had always told her, when people don't see your worth, don't fight for their approval. Let them show who they are, then you show them who raised you. Inside the store, a teenage clerk had been watching everything unfold. She opened the door slightly and called out, "She hasn't even come inside, sir." The officer turned, clearly irritated. "You need to worry about your register, miss." The door shut quietly again. The engine of her dad's SUV cut off. The air in the lot changed. The driver's door opened and out stepped Master Sergeant Derek Preston. His boots hit the pavement with that unmistakable weight of authority. He wasn't tall, but he carried himself like someone who didn't need to raise his voice to be heard. He wore desert camo, pressed and spotless, his last name stitched across his chest and his rank on his sleeve. But it wasn't the uniform that caused the officer to stiffen, it was the expression. Calm, unreadable, steady. Something going on here? Derek asked, his voice low but firm. The officer turned. Your daughter, he said. She was loitering. Said you were inside, but I didn't see you. I was inside, Derek replied coolly. You didn't see me because you didn't look. The officer opened his mouth to object but thought better of it. He forced a smile. Well, it looked suspicious. Just trying to make sure everything's all right. Derek glanced at his daughter. She told you I was in special forces? The officer shifted. She did. Well, And you laughed. The silence that followed was colder than before. The store clerk opened the door again and stepped out, arms crossed. Behind her, an older man, likely in his 60s, stood holding a receipt, eyes darting between the uniform and the officer. If there's been a misunderstanding, the officer began. No need, Derek interrupted, raising a hand. You already said enough. He turned to Janiyah. You okay? She nodded, not speaking, eyes still on the ground. Go ahead and get in the car. Janiyah walked past the officer without a word. She opened the passenger side door, and before she got in, she looked back. Just once. That single glance said more than anything else she could have said that day. The officer cleared his throat. Look, man, I didn't mean anything by it. You don't get to laugh at my daughter, Derek said. That was all. Then he turned to get into his car. But by then, people were watching. One man already had his phone out. The store clerk still stood near the doorway. The older customer stayed beside his truck, uncertain but unmoving. Inside the SUV, Janiyah sat stiff, hands clenched in her lap. She hadn't cried, but her chest felt heavy. You all right? Her dad asked again. She didn't speak at first. Then he laughed. Derek nodded. Yeah, he did. You think he thought I was lying? I don't think, he said. I know he did. Why? He looked over at her. Because the truth doesn't always fit people's stories. Some folks hear the truth and think it's a joke, especially when it comes from someone they've already decided not to believe. Outside, the officer was now pacing, talking into his radio, glancing toward the SUV nervously. But he wasn't in control anymore, and he knew it. Derek stepped out again. You got a name? He asked. The officer hesitated. Deputy Rick Malone. You think my daughter looked suspicious? It's not about looks, Malone replied quickly. It was her behavior, just standing there alone with a backpack, loitering. Derek raised an eyebrow. Did she argue with you? No. Did she raise her voice? No. She called me. Told you I was coming. And you laughed at her. Why? Malone didn't respond. That's exactly the problem, Derek said. The clerk stepped closer, still filming. She didn't do anything wrong, she said. I saw the whole thing. She just stood there. Malone's jaw tightened. Young lady, this doesn't concern. It does now, Derek cut in. It concerns everyone tired of seeing kids treated like criminals just for existing. A man from the side of the building stepped forward. I got a daughter. If a grown man stood over her like that while she waited for me, I'd have a problem too. Malone looked like he wanted to say something defensive, dismissive, but all the eyes on him shut it down. Derek pulled out his phone. Badge number. Malone hesitated. Is that a problem? 2472, he muttered. Derek entered it into his phone. Thanks. Then, you owe her an apology. Malone's eyes widened. Sir, I don't think. It's not about what you think. It's about what you did. Malone looked around. Then slowly walked to the passenger window, leaned slightly in. I'm sorry, he said, voice strained. Janiyah didn't look at him. Derek nodded once. Let's go. They pulled out slowly, no drama, no noise. But the parking lot was forever changed. And the story? It had just begun.